Hi, everybody, and welcome. I am Cassandra, and today we are going to take a very deep dive into one of my most favorite topics, which is sleep. All right, so I have some questions. Some are questions from friends, family, and listeners, and some of them are just kind of common questions that I hear all the time. So we are going to go ahead and jump right in. The first question is, how do I get better REM sleep or better deep sleep? So if you are using a wearable like an Aura Ring, a Whoop bracelet, Apple Watch, or if you have one of those really amazingly cool Sleep 8 beds that tracks all of your biometrics while you sleep, you can see exactly how much REM sleep you get, how much deep sleep you get, what your sleep latency is, which is how long it takes you to fall asleep, and so much more. So, if you are lacking on your REM sleep or your deep sleep, these are ways for you to get both better REM and deep sleep. So, really, before we even move into supplementation, you always want to start with behavioral or lifestyle changes. So, things like making sure that your space is cool and dark, making sure that you have maybe some blackout curtains, maybe you wear a sleep mask, you have a sound machine if you need that. Maybe if you live in a city or something of that nature, you share a space with someone who maybe wakes up in the night. And I would just experiment with a lot of different sleep sounds. Sometimes things like white noise can be really useful. Some people like other tones, ocean waves, things like that. Pink noise, brown noise. I don't really know the difference. I need to look that up. I think brown noise is good for sleep. I don't know. I would experiment with them. No, maybe brown noise is the one that helps you when you're stressed. I will look it up and figure it out. But so you want to make sure your room is cool and dark. So, you can also wear light clothing or no clothing at all to go to bed. You can sleep with just a sheet or no blankets at all. Turn on the fan. At nighttime, I really turn up my air conditioning unit. There are actually some blankets and mattress covers that you can buy that heat and cool. So I actually am going to experiment with that. So I will let you know how that ends up. Something else you can do when you wake up in the morning is to make sure you expose yourself to sunlight immediately by going outside. So receiving it through the window is not enough. You actually need to go outside. And if you are an early bird like I am and the sun is not even up yet, you can get one of those 10,000 lux lights. I can link something below. I got one on Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive. So it's just a bright light that you have on for 5 to 10 minutes when you first wake up. You can put it in your bathroom. I put it outside in my sunroom because I work out first thing in the morning. So I really just leave it on for like 45 minutes to an hour. You don't have to really go to that extreme. But I have noticed really a lot of changes by using that light. Knowing your chronotype, making sure you are really helping to set your circadian rhythm by going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every single day. I went to bed way too late last night, and I noticed today already just like the difference. I'm very tired. So it's really, really important. The guy who did the Netflix documentary, I think his name is Brian Johnson. He is a fascinating human being, but this is also his favorite thing to talk about is sleep. And um, it's kind of like you schedule your sleep almost like a doctor's appointment that you're going to get charged for, whether you show up or not. Like you go to sleep when you're supposed to go to sleep. You wake up on this at the same time every single day. It's one of those things that you can make non-negotiable to really help set you up for success. Um, I know that sounds pretty pretty hard, and some people like to stay out late, and they have different schedules on the weekend. So I am not judging. You do whatever you want. I'm just letting you know the best way to get better REM and deep sleep. Um, During the day, stress management things as well as physical activity. So let's start with the physical activity and then we'll move to stress management. Making sure that you are getting some moderate to intense physical activity. So moderate is physical activity um, where you are able to talk but not sing. Okay. So the recommendation, at least through Harvard Medical School, is to get 150 to 300 hours of that moderate intensity workout per week. And then the intensity, I don't know, the next tier up. Okay. So you are unable to talk. You can kind of say words here and there, but you can't really talk. So that is like a step up in intensity in your workout. The recommendation is if you're going to lean towards that 150 minutes per week. Of course, I recommend way more than that personally. I think that's just kind of what how do I say this? They tried to give recommendations that people will actually do. So I think, you should strive for better than that. But anyways, having physical activity every single day, even if it's just walking, if you work at a desk, maybe you can stand, maybe you can sit on one of those like exercise balls. They make these cool things that you stand on that you kind of have to like use your core and engage your core. Those create movement. They make treadmills and standing desks and bicycles. I don't know. These are all sorts of things. Really, the best thing to do is probably to go outside and walk and take in, the nature sounds around you and not have your earbuds in and not be talking on the phone, but just being very, very, very present. And that kind of can take you into your stress management. Being present, not thinking about things in the past and in the future, but just really being aware of what's going on right now as you're walking really helps to manage stress. You can also do other mindfulness things other than that. Being mindful is just being aware of what you're doing and doing one thing at a time. So monotasking. Meditation. A lot of people don't want to sit still and meditate for, 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes before bed. You can always lie down and meditate. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. Who cares? I'm a huge fan because I'm a big mover. I love doing moving meditations. So, like, I'm folding laundry, but I'm not watching a YouTube video, listening to a book, whatever it is. I'm just being very present and folding the laundry. So, you can do it for things like washing dishes, vacuuming, sweeping, walking your dog, any sort of chores around the house, cooking. So, just being really aware and just doing one thing at a time. So monotasking is the key. I know we glorify multitasking, but I don't really know how productive we're really being and how healthy that really is for our mental health and our stress management. You can do a warm bath before bed. So that could go either way. I would just notice how it affects you. That typically doesn't work for me. It keeps my heart rate up at night. But for some people, because it brings your temperature up, the warm bath or shower, your body temperature then drops and you can get into deeper sleep. So I would play with that. Same with the sauna. Reading a book, a relaxing book before bed, nothing that's too stimulating. and the actual physical copy of the book with the pages in it and everything, not on the Kindle or the phone. You just want to stay away from devices. I do know that Kindles, for example, you can turn the brightness to warm versus cool tones. I don't know if that cancels the blue light or if that does anything to help. I would just be a little bit wary of any devices, especially in the bedroom. I'm a huge proponent of keeping all devices out of the bedroom so you're not tempted to reach for them. Yoga right before bed. I have a YouTube channel with yoga videos, and some of them are for bed. I'll link that. Or just any. Just go to YouTube and type in yoga for bed or yoga for rest, calming yoga, something like that. And it doesn't have to be yoga, it can just be stretching before bed. There's also something called yoga nidra, which is it's yoga Nidra. It's a guided meditation technique to really help you fall into deep sleep. And they do have a lot of science to back up how effective that is. And Dr. Huberman is a huge proponent of that. So, another thing that we can talk about is managing risky substances such as drugs and alcohol, as well as caffeine and nicotine. Not that caffeine is risky per se, but all of these things interrupt your sleep. So obviously, caffeine and nicotine are stimulants. So they are going to stimulate the physical body and the mind and keep you from being able to fall deeply into your rest cycle. As far as I can't speak for all drugs because, of course, they're all different. They're depressants, they're stimulants. But as far as the most popular, which is probably marijuana, it does have a depressant effect, just like alcohol. Some people feel very, very relaxed when taking marijuana or alcohol, and they think that that helps them with their sleep. And what I heard Dr. Matthew Walker, he wrote a book called Why We Sleep, and it is phenomenal. He talks about what is actually happening is you are becoming unconscious more quickly. So you think, or you have the illusion that you're falling asleep more quickly, but really you're losing consciousness more quickly and you are not getting good rest. You're not sleeping as deeply. So, I would tell you to avoid drugs and alcohol, as well as nicotine altogether. However, I know not everybody is going to do that. So, maybe doing them way before bedtime versus right before bed. That also gets tricky. I mean, it's not like you're going to have a glass of wine before work. So, again, it affects everybody differently. So, I would just play with that. Maybe having the glass of wine or the beer, whatever, earlier in the day, like after lunch versus, or not immediately after lunch. You know what I mean? Not late in the day is what I'm saying. Okay. So that your body has some time to really get rid of those toxins. So, something to take note of is possibly trying magnesium. A lot of people take magnesium as a supplement, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you can increase magnesium rich foods like spinach, avocado, almonds. And what magnesium does is it promotes relaxation. So, like muscle relaxation, and that can help you release and let go and sleep. Staying hydrated throughout the day too is super beneficial, just so all of your body's systems are online and working properly. You do want to avoid too much water before bedtime, obviously, because then you'll be waking up to use the restroom. And something else I didn't mention when I was talking about waking up and taking in sunlight or using the artificial light is you can take a cold shower. Um, if you're not up for that early in the morning, you can splash some cool water on your face, um, and definitely delay your caffeine intake by an hour, which can be a bummer because my favorite thing used to be I used to have the habit of waking up and making my green tea first thing. And then I heard, I think, Matt Walker talking about delaying it by an hour, and I was like, no. So I think I just slowly shifted it over time. So you can play with that as well. Something to note is that some sleep aids, like sleeping pills and antidepressants, can reduce or suppress your REM sleep and your deep sleep. So you definitely want to consult a doctor about that. Maybe now we can dive into supplementation. If you have done these behavioral and lifestyle changes and you've given yourself some time and you've really worked at them and you're not noticing any benefits or any change, you can try supplementation. So usually the first go-to is magnesium. Again, the spinach, the almonds, the avocado, just any foods that are rich in magnesium. You can also take it in the supplementation form. You want to do the magnesium threonate or the magnesium glycinate. So again, the magnesium relaxes your muscles and it shortens the time it takes to fall asleep. The recommendation is 200 to 400 milligrams 2 to 3 hours before bed. So don't put it next to your bed and just take it as you're falling asleep. The other recommendations by Matt Walker are theanine, which is an amino acid. And it also, just like the magnesium, it promotes relaxation. So you're going to get a similar effect. If you are prone to sleepwalking or to night terrors, you do not want to take this. So some studies have shown that those become more vivid for people, or they have an increased incidence of them. So you definitely want to stay away from this in that case. The recommendation is 100 to 400 milligrams, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And then the final recommendation is apigenin, which is actually found in chamomile, the flower. So this is why a lot of people drink chamomile tea before bed. The recommendation is 50 milligrams, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. I do want to mention melatonin. I still know a lot of people who take melatonin. Studies have shown that this is not as effective as everyone once believed. Melatonin is a hormone that we all produce in our bodies. And something that really helps with your body's production of melatonin is getting that early morning light that I mentioned. And something else that really helps as well, that kind of cues your body so that you know that it's starting to get closer to bedtime. You can go outside at dusk as the sun is going down. So your body's like, oh, the sun is going down. This means it's nearly bedtime. You want to turn off all of the overhead lights in your house, which can be difficult. I'm looking at my house right now and I have so many overhead lights, as most people do. But what you can do is you can put lamps on your floor, which apparently is a very popular thing to do in Europe. So it's super simple. You just take the lamp off the table, you put it on the floor at nighttime. If you don't want to kind of do that, I do have a couple of lights in my house that are like floor lamps that are low to the ground. So the point is as the day is kind of, as you're winding down in your day, you want your body to be sensing light coming from down versus up. So the lights that are above your head on your ceiling, those are telling you, your body, that it's noon or it's midday. So you're not producing melatonin naturally as you should. I hope this all makes sense. Okay, so we're going to move on from supplementation, but a lot of people ask that question. So the other question was, how much sleep do I need? The recommendation is 7 to 9 hours for adults. For older adults, like in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, it's more like 7 to 8 hours. And for teens and kids, it's more like 8 to 13 hours, depending on their age. Just remember that the time you spend in bed is not the actual time you are asleep because of your sleep latency, how long it takes you to fall asleep. And also, in the middle of the night, you naturally wake up. That's just part of the sleep wake cycle. So those minutes get subtracted as well. If you have a wearable device, then you see that like you're in bed for 8 hours, but you're only asleep for 6 hours and 45 minutes, whatever it is. If you do not have a wearable device, totally fine. Just notice if you feel rested and restored the next day. And that can kind of give you a clue. Like, do you feel like you need to take a nap? Do you feel like you are reaching for food for energy when you're not necessarily hungry? Caffeine because you're feeling run down. So, I mean, that could also be a nutritional issue, which we can also discuss in a later episode, but that can give you cues to your sleep as well. All right. Next question. Are naps okay? So, naps can be beneficial earlier in the day. So, you want to aim for like late morning to early afternoon. You just don't want to be too close to your bedtime. And it's more like a 20 or 30-minute nap. Yoga Nidra is very, very useful for this middle of the day nap. If you want to just, again, Google that. It's yoga, Nidra. I can link something down below. If you just go on YouTube, there are so many. It's just helping you to relax. So that's kind of the key. You don't need to fall asleep, but if you just keep your body still and relaxed for 20 to 30 minutes, that can be super restorative. Another question, what is the best sleep position? And this one made me very sad because I love sleeping on my belly so much. It's my most favorite. So your belly is not recommended. The recommendation, the top recommendation is to sleep on your back because not only does it reduce the pressure on your heart and lungs, it improves your spinal alignment and it minimizes wrinkles. Sold. People who have lower back pain, something you can do for this is I'm thinking of like in restorative yoga or just in yoga in general, laying flat on your back can kind of be painful to your lower back. You can roll up blankets or towels or even get a bolster or a pillow and put them under your knees and just kind of get that bend in your leg and some elevation there. You can also do this if you want to sleep in like a super restorative pose. You can put blankets and pillows under your arms as well and just kind of like, you know what you could do? I used to do this. I don't know why I got away from it. I would have like a ton of pillows in my bed. I would put them under my knees, under my arms, and then I was kind of like cocooned in this little nest, this like ovular shaped nest. Give it a go, see how it works. You do want to check your pillow just to make sure your neck is aligned so that you know your spine is aligned. So your chin is not jutting up towards the ceiling. You're kind of tucking your chin ever so slightly. Your side, laying on your side is acceptable, and it is very useful for people who snore or have sleep apnea to help them stop snoring or help with the sleep apnea. And then, of course, if you are on your belly, it's not recommended because of the pressure you're putting on your heart and lungs the strain on your back, and it could cause neck pain. So if you do wake up and your back is strained or you have some neck pain, maybe you've been on your belly. All right, my friends, that is your sleep deep dive Q&A. I hope it was useful. Please let me know. Go ahead and send me a message, Cassandra at namasteyourlife.com, or even on one of my YouTube videos, and let me know which of the pillars you want to do next. So the 6 pillars of health and wellness, according to Harvard Medical School, are sleep, which we did, positive social connection, avoidance of risky substances, nutrition, physical activity, and stress management. So I'm going to bet people want to talk about stress management because that's a big one. All right. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.